Friends, I congratulate everyone on April Fool's Day, but I wish not to be a fool, so as not to end up in a story similar to the one in which the hero of this video turned out to be.
Hi, my name is Jane, 25. And I want to tell you how much fun my fiancé and I had on April Fool's Day this year. My boyfriend and I started dating about 5 years ago, and despite brief cooling off periods, we are still together. And, considering the fact that I recently found out that I was pregnant, it was assumed that we would be together until the end. However, life makes its own adjustments to everything. I am not a beauty, of course, but I am very effective and with a good figure. With all this, I have never cheated on him or given him any reason to suspect me of anything. However, I do not see anything wrong with easy, non-binding flirting. I have always been successful with men, but as I have already written, I have never allowed myself anything before. My boyfriend is a wonderful man. He is kind, attentive, and caring. And throughout our relationship, he had a lot more reasons to be offended by me than I had at him. His only drawback is that when he drinks, he has an irrepressible desire to arrange various stupid jokes on vulgar topics. In order not to go into the enumeration, I will give only one example. We spent the last Christmas at my parents' house. And he got drunk and couldn't think of anything better than to put a pack of condoms in my father's jacket, and one of them was already printed out. And Mom, of course, found them earlier than Dad. My poor Dad. Honestly, I don't envy him, but in the end everything was resolved, let's just say, without blood. And, the rest of the time, he is the perfect person with whom you can safely create a family to live the rest of your life. It so happened that quite recently I found out that I was pregnant. Despite my initial hesitation, we decided to keep this child. Our parents were delighted with this news, and all our two families began to prepare for the wedding, which, for technical reasons, so that the belly would not be noticeable, was scheduled for the end of April. And I must say that everything was going great. My boyfriend surrounded me with such care and affection that I couldn't take a step myself. My mother and his mother vied with each other to bombard me with calls and advice. In general, any girl can only dream of such an atmosphere of kindness and love. However, hormones have started to do their evil work. My early pregnancy was difficult. I was constantly sick, odors began to irritate me, and my mood was constantly changing. Those things that I would never have paid attention to before could now infuriate me in the blink of an eye, and literally half an hour later I myself no longer understood what I reacted so violently to. Naturally, my boyfriend got the most. During one evening, as he somehow counted, I threw him 3 scandals, which really ended very quickly with reconciliations. It got even worse with sex. Literally immediately, due to the peculiarities of my pregnancy, doctors banned sexual activity, so oral sex became the prevailing type of sex. The groom really liked it at first. However, the tastes and smells affected me so much that I often stopped in the middle when I started giving him a blowjob, because I started to feel sick. In short, he got it, poor guy. Towards the end of March, my condition improved so much that I agreed to go to a party hosted by my future husband's best friend on his birthday and April Fool's Day at the same time. They have been friends since childhood, tried to engage in some kind of joint business, managed not to quarrel at the same time. In general, they are friends. He used his parents' old country house for this event. How many days it had to be cleaned after that is a completely different story, but everything was always very noisy and fun. It was the same this time. When we arrived, the fun was already in full swing. There were about 30 people present, and I was more or less familiar with all of them. There were also all those of his friends who were either lonely or preferred to go to such events alone. And all of them, with more or less persistence, have tried to pick me up in the past. Of course, as I have already written, it did not go beyond flirting, although among them there were, I must say, worthy and thoroughbred specimens. The fun was gaining momentum, but I felt that, alas, I was unlikely to be able to participate in it. Weakness, apathy, and nausea began to pile up. Lying down in the corner of the sofa, I drank water and thought about how hard it is to be a woman, and, in order not to spoil the evening for others, I almost forcibly sent the groom to the bar for a drink with friends. As I could clearly see from my seat, he began timidly, but gradually dispersed, holding a glass of whiskey with one hand and gesturing animatedly with the other. A little later, his hand stopped gesticulating and moved to the waist of the wife of our friend, who was standing right there. So far, everything has been within the bounds of decency. Noticing that I was bored alone, the hero of the occasion approached me with a hesitant gait. As it turned out, he had started celebrating since yesterday evening, and so successfully that his girlfriend, after coldly congratulating him, left and, as I understood, was not going to return. I once again wished him a happy birthday and April 1st. We once again played this coincidence, including from the point of view of horoscopes, and he moved on to singing the praises of my beauty and grace. Yes, it is difficult to talk adequately with a drunk person. And all the while, out of the corner of your eye, keep an eye on his friend, who is also your future husband at the same time. And, as it was perfectly visible from the outside, this future husband was getting more and more at odds. Of course, he doesn't know how to drink at all, I thought. The noise, smoke and drunken chatter of the birthday boy gave me a headache again, and everything around me began to annoy. I found my husband with my eyes and, catching his gaze, waved to him. When he came up, I put my arms around his neck and whispered in his ear that I was very tired and needed to pack. However, he has already entered into his image and said that now they will play someone very cool, and then we will go right away. The taxi has already left for us. And he's gone. The fun was gaining momentum more and more. Oh, I was getting more and more sick, and everything was just starting to piss me off. Especially, a boyfriend who normally can't leave any drunkenness, as well as a drunken body next to me, who began to admit to me that he always loved me, and that if I suddenly leave his friend, he will always accept me, both with and without a child. Oh, will you take it with two? I was kidding. His bleary eyes reflected the Titanic work, and after a moment's thought he said, yes, at least with three. But apparently it finished him off, because he got up, kissed me on the cheek and said he was going to sleep upstairs in his room. However, he remained a gentleman here, inviting me with him, and when I jokingly said goodbye, he said that the bedroom door would be open. And I was getting more and more sick. I went to the bathroom, where I threw up. This is the end. I decided, we must take our faithful and go home. It was more difficult to do this. He was nowhere to be found. I asked a couple of friends if anyone knew where he was. Finally, someone said that they saw him going upstairs with a very nice lady. So, it flashed through my head, it's starting. Mom told me that when she was pregnant, Dad also did numbers, and not always harmless ones. Therefore, even though I was confident in my own, as in a wall, nevertheless, any suspicion in my condition increases 100-fold. Going up to the second floor, where there were bedrooms, I began to look into each one quietly, so as not to accidentally disturb anyone. Of course, it would have been the right thing to do, staying on the stairs, to start calling him, but something inside me made me look at everything with my own eyes. In the first room, the owner was sleeping in his underpants, and the second and third couples were having fun. The fourth was closed, but the light was visible from under the fifth, and the sound of a working TV could be heard. I carefully looked into the room. There was a large armchair right in front of the door. My fiancé was sitting in it, facing the door. A whole range of different emotions played on his face, apparently caused by the fact that our friend's wife was kneeling between his legs and making reciprocating movements with her head. How can I describe what I experienced at this site? Probably nothing. Whoever has not experienced it himself will not understand. All I remember is that I was overcome by a wave of rage. All I wanted at the moment was revenge. Moreover, I would not even be able to clearly tell who. To yourself, to your fiancé, to your unborn child? I don't know, I don't remember, yes, and I don't want to remember at all. But at that moment I knew exactly what to do. Slamming the door, I went into the room of the sleeping birthday boy, closed the door from the inside and, unceremoniously pulling off his panties, began to caress his sleeping penis with my lips and tongue. Surprisingly for his condition, he had an erection before he woke up. And while he was still coming to his senses, I had already climbed on top of him and his warrior entered me. I almost screamed. It was significantly larger than my ex-husband's. It's amazing, I thought, that I can still mark such details. The friend became more and more aware of what was happening, and his potency began to deteriorate. At that moment, it did not suit me at all. I had to bring the process to an end. So I got off his cock and, ignoring his objections, moved to his face, and I took care of his fading friend. He was not slow to respond and became just iron. And after a while, a jet shot into my throat. And if the penis itself was bigger, then the sperm tasted more disgusting than the one I was used to. Spitting it out, I felt sick again and vomited again near the bed. It was only then that I heard someone breaking down the door to the room. The last thing I remember is the door opening and my fiancé flying into the room, followed by a whole crowd of people. And then I lost consciousness. When I woke up, I was lying on the bed, and one of the guests, a nurse by profession, was fussing around me. My ex-boyfriend was sitting at the head of the bed. "Darling, I'll explain everything. You misunderstood everything," he began. I didn't answer anything, and in order not to see him, I turned over on the other side. "We had nothing," he continued. "I was drunk and we decided to prank you. It was all an imitation. We even filmed your face when you came in, on a hidden camera, and the husband of the girl who pretended to give me a blowjob was hiding with a friend in the closet. These are my witnesses." "Honey, I was just joking," he continued. "Oh, I'm not," I said and smiled at him with lips that still had his friend's sperm on them. That's how Fool's Day turned out for us. But I still can't figure out who turned out to be the worst after all.
Thank you if you listen to the end. Subscribe, like and send your stories. Bye.